Hello, my spooky friends. It's finally here, October. Time to get those costumes ready. And I hope you are going to enjoy all the festivities, the parties, the trick or treating, and spend the time with your family. But we are here to make it a lot better than what you could buy on the shelves, to make it a little bit more unique and to be able to save yourself some time and money. So I'm using airfoam clay, tissue paper, and cotton, and liquid latex for this look. So I hope you enjoy it. And let's just go ahead and get into it. To begin my Hag Witch look, I want to sculpt the nose and the chin, and I'm using a head cast and airfoam clay. Now, in order to make your airfoam clay pliable, you want to pull it and make it malleable, so just make sure that you are stretching it and putting it back onto itself and stretching it. I find that that's the best way to do it. And just take a little bit to make sure that I can get it past the inner corner of the eye, making sure those areas are flat, and then often spraying it with water so that you can sculpt it a little better. A big strip down the middle with smaller strips on the side for the nostrils seem to work the best for me. And then also, in any time that you're using tools and clay, you want to wet them a little bit just so they glide across it and it doesn't skip and you don't have things inside your design that you do not want, such as unwanted textures. I then move on to the chin, and I be sure to put the edge up on the bottom lip and make sure that some of the airfoam clay goes up underneath, because you want this to actually cup the chin and not sit just on top of it. It will make for a better seal when you go to use adhesives to keep it on, and it'll last a lot longer. Airfoam clay dries roughly in about 24 hours, but that is depending on the thickness of the pieces that you are working with. To sculpt the chin, I'm making sure to push that up under the lip and make sure some of that clay goes up under the chin so it sits and it cups the chin. It's a better fit instead of it sitting on top. Now I'm using different things for hair in the moles. I'm using actual fishing line and a baby's breath and some of my Henry's hair, so it sits and I punch that in to the moles. Now, the problem I ran into with this first sculpt is I didn't put a release agent onto it, so I actually had to cut it. And once I did that, I actually cut through all the layers and exposed the nose down to its plaster, and that's very dangerous. And I didn't have a lot of time, but I had to continue to move on, and so I had to scrap both pieces. And then in order to correct this and move on quickly, I used masking tape to protect that nose, and then applied plastic wrap over the rest of the face, so I didn't actually have to go and get a release agent. And I usually don't use a release agent, but for me, any agent is whatever helps it release, so I absolutely had to use the plastic, and that's what I normally do anyway. But yes, don't let my mistake be yours. Make sure you put something as a barrier so when that clay dries, you can release it and not ruin it. So here goes the second day, and guys, it's just kind of got into my head a little bit. Like, that is like a mistake that you do when you first run into it. It's just that I've gotten out of the skill. I haven't used clay in a while, and so this got me a little bit. I had to go back in and recreate this nose, and I had to do it about 6-7 times because I was working with overused clay instead of picking out newer pieces. But what I'm doing is rolling up small little balls and either flattening them out or keeping them thick so that the moles on the nose and around the chin have a different type of texture. I want some that are in your face and then some that are a little bit subtle. And then when I do that, I go back in and I punch in the dog hair into the moles, and also push in before it dries the sprigs that are on top of that nose. You see I painted them black in the look. It's just to give it a little bit more in your face, a little bit dimension, and completely Hag Witch like. So just take your time and put things wherever you want them to be, and you'll be just fine. So now it's time to move on to the prosthetic built up into the clay pieces, and I'm doing this with cotton and liquid latex. Now, I do have my eyebrows protected with my Elmer's glue stick and powdered, but I did not need to block them out completely because I'm using black for the rest of this look. So if you need a tutorial about how to block out your eyebrows quick and easy like a pro and get it right the first time, check the link in the description below because I do have a tutorial dedicated to eyebrow blocking. And what I'm doing here is I'm placing a little bit of liquid latex around the arch in the eyebrow and over into the cheekbone area, and I want that exaggerated, so I'm making sure that I tap in liquid latex around the edges and then go over a little bit just to cover the bulk of the cotton but not lay it flat. That's going to give you the biggest dimensions and the really out there in your face look. And I just continue to build up in the areas that I want that brow to be high arched. And with some spirit gum, I go in and attach my chin, making sure to hold it in place for a few minutes before I let it go. And then I continue to build up with more cotton and liquid latex. Be sure to put that cotton and liquid latex up underneath that chin. That's going to give you a better seal. And then with some more spirit gum, I go in and place the nose. Again, giving it some time to get tacky. And then once that is holding on its own, I then go back in with more buildup of cotton and liquid latex to cover up those edges and go up underneath the nose, but being sure to leave holes so that I can breathe. To complete the texture on the face so there's no gaps between the buildup, I am using 1-ply tissue paper and just one layer of liquid latex. I do this for each side of the face and also for the forehead as well. I then use more tissue paper to go down the areas of the neck, which I don't know why I did this because I colored it with a base color, but I did not bring out any shadows in it, and that's just how it went, and I don't know what happened, but that's what you need to do if you want to carry this down and you have exposed skin in your costume. Now for the overall base, I'm using the NYX Can't Stop, Won't Stop foundation, just something a few shades lighter than my natural skin tone. But be sure that all the cotton and the liquid latex is dry, because if you don't, you will ruin your brushes. Now these brushes, every one that I'm using today, they come from Shop Miss A, and I do have that linked in the description box below. They are well worth the price and very affordable, so check that out. And I always say on my channel, be sure to use the proper brush for the area that you're working in. So I take a smaller brush and get around those moles and those skin tags up on the nose and make sure that I'm covering any crease like the inner corners and around the eyelid. I then set everything with a little bit of powder. I then go in with a smaller brush and some black eyeshadow to cover and get the eyebrows covered and add more details and bring out the lowlights in the sculpt itself. I like to use eyeshadow and build up because I can add to instead of take away. So that's what I tend to do. So I wanted to make sure that I was getting all of the sunken in portions because those very bright and light base colors is really going to jump out once you put the shadows in. Putting a little bit more definition into the nose itself, and then also I go in now with some black cream paint because I did want things to be a bigger contrast in color, but you can still get away by using just eyeshadow. But if you want it to be this dark, go with some water paints or some cream paints. So go in and get the eyes covered and those eyebrows covered up, and then adding more texture into the forehead, and then painting in my lips with the same cream eyeshadow. Now, I'm not exactly sure what was going on here. I was just enjoying myself. There was a song on, and also doing things like this kind of helps me get into character, and I'm looking at myself in the mirror to make sure that acting comes out. But the next step is to color in those skin tags and those moles. And for this, because I want a light wash of color, I'm going in with Narrative Cosmetics alcohol paint. This is alcohol activated with 99% alcohol. Use it sparingly. If you have alcohol paints, make sure it's a well ventilated area because it will irritate the eyes. So I just go around picking out different little colors, mauve, a little bit of yellow, and a little bit of brown to bring out the texture in those moles. And then I take a little bit of black eyeshadow and I go around it so they look like they're more deeply embedded into the skin. The wig comes from Walmart and the contacts are from my IBB. If you want to save yourself some money, about 20% off, use my code that's listed in the description below. So here is the final look. I hope you guys enjoyed hanging out and watching me create this Hag Witch. But if you're looking for something a little bit more whimsical and a lot more beautiful, why not hang out for this next video where I use a multi-chrome to create a glamorous witch. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!